Hello, my name is Clayton, and welcome to episode 125 of the Watch Dog podcast. I'm a professional dog runner and watch enthusiast talking to his pals about dogs and watches. How's everyone doing? Thank you so much for listening. You know I appreciate it. 125 episodes. Didn't even dawn on me till I recorded the intro. Pretty monumental number. Well, maybe not, considering I actually have been doing this for 5.5 years. And if I were regular and consistent, I'd probably be somewhere around, 275 episodes, something like that. So yeah, 125, I guess, is no big deal. But it is a big deal that you listen and support the podcast each and every episode. You know that means the world to me. So thank you again. I hope you're all doing well and Christmas shopping and holiday shopping is going swimmingly. Just don't get stressed out. You know, things are so expensive. I've been dropping a lot of money on gifts, and I know you probably have too. So yeah, don't get stressed out. Don't sweat it too much. I think our loved ones just are thankful that we're thinking of them. And also, something I wanted to mention in my gift giving episode that I completely forgot and overlooked. The holidays are not a happy and joyous time for everybody, right? Oftentimes they bring up sadness. You know, maybe this is the first Christmas without your mom or your dad, and often they're just not as happy as little kids opening presents under the Christmas tree, right? Sometimes they remind us of sad times. My friend just lost her dad last week. I know that is going to loom large over Christmas for them this year. So if you know somebody who you think might be struggling, especially around the holidays, when they get reminded of these losses, reach out, give them a call, invite them over, cheer them up, spread the Christmas cheer, if you will. All right, that's it. I really wanted to mention that in that episode. I forgot. I actually got her a gift when her dad passed. I didn't want to get her flowers or something. You know, she's a really good friend of mine, and I felt like, as nice as they are, you still have to deal with them. But I looked up like comfort packages you can send to people. And I sent her chicken noodle soup, rolls, and a cookie from a company called Spoonful of Comfort. And I'll put a link to that in the show notes. Yeah, again, like I said, the holidays often remind us of the people who aren't around this holiday season. So something like Spoonful of Comfort, again, this company has no affiliation with me, bought it with my own money, but Spoonful of Comfort and companies like that are maybe just a little something different to send to somebody that you're thinking of. And hopefully chicken noodle soup this time of year, if you're in a cold environment, hits the right spot and makes them smile. Also, just wanted to thank everybody for the great feedback to the episode we did this week with Keith, our top 10 power rankings of 2025 watch releases. That was so much fun to do. I've had a couple people send their lists over, and it's really interesting to see. I don't know that we've had many repeats at all between the people I've heard from and then with Keith and I, obviously. Listening to other podcasts and YouTube videos, I'm realizing that I did miss a few, though. So I just wanted to highlight a couple right now that I completely overlooked with my list that might have made it had they been front of mind. I told Keith that Seiko really didn't resonate with me in 2025. I didn't like any of their releases. Well, that wasn't quite true. There's a watch I completely forgot about, probably because I don't think it's actually available in the United States yet. It is available in Japan. The Seiko Roto Call, a reissue of a really cool digital watch that I believe they had in the 80s. It's a digital watch, and it has a movable bezel with settings on it. So you move the bezel. The first and standard bezel position says time. That obviously displays the time. You can move it, and it can go to the single alarm, the daily alarm, dual time, stopwatch, counter. So yeah, the digital windows change when you move the bezel. Incredibly cool, retro-looking watch. I love the gold tone. It's a limited edition. I can't believe I forgot to mention it, because it probably would have maybe ousted the Omega or the Bremont. Probably would have made 9 or 10 on my list, and I just don't know why I didn't think of it. I had somebody in a watch group I'm in who was actually in Japan and bought one for himself and said, if anybody's looking for one, just let me know. I can buy a few and then bring them over and send them out when I get back to the States. And I asked him if you see a gold one. He said he only saw one gold one, or maybe he didn't see any gold ones. I said, if you see a gold toned one, let me know because I would love to have one. And I can't believe I did not put it on my list. But yes, the Seiko Rotocall, I'll put a link to it in the show notes. Extremely cool digital watch. You can buy them on eBay. You can buy them on Chrono24 right now. But they'll hit your Seiko authorized dealers. I'm not sure the limited edition will, but the general releases, there's a few of them. They'll hit probably in 2026. So, yep, that's probably why I forgot to include it, but such an epically cool watch. And I also really like what Dedison is doing. And they probably would have been an honorable mention. There's something about the stone dials that they use, and the dual times are really cool, like the tiger eye and marble and gold. Yeah, I really like what they're doing. I think they're an inexpensive way to get a dress watch in your collection comparatively to other things on the market, and they're doing a lot of funky stuff. Yeah, they're not going to win any watchmaking or horology awards. It's probably pretty inexpensive feeling quartz watches. I know they're very thin too. I did actually try one on this summer, and it felt okay. You know, it's probably not something I would buy, but I really like the dials, and that dual time is pretty funky. It has a crown on each side because it's actually two separate movements. And that is probably something I would consider in a moment of weakness. I know I would probably sell it eventually, though, so I'm trying to just completely skip over those purchases where I know they're probably not going to last. Now, if they're $70, like the kill count from Far and Swit, that's like a guilt-free purchase, really, you know. I'll never sell that one. But when we're talking, these are $890, $900, then, you know, I do the math and I think, will I actually wear it past the honeymoon? Probably not. I'll lose a few $100s selling it too, you know, and I'll probably scratch it because I tend to scratch watches. So, you know, ultimately, I'm not sure it's worth the purchase, but they're really cool. And I'm glad they're successful. They're doing very well. I've heard they've done well at like the wind-up events. They have a long line. They seem to be, you know, on everybody's radar. And I think that's really cool because I think they are nice looking. And I guess that's probably about it. Yeah, just a couple I wanted to mention. The Rotocall would have made my top 10. I could have kicked something out. Not sure the Denison would, but again, I am intrigued by them. Okay, let's get to the main topic for this week. And we got a little snow last night. So if you hear a loud rumbling off in the distance, it's a snowplow. I'm not sure we got enough to warrant a snowplow, but there you have it. They're out there. We live on a hill, so I guess it's a good thing that they're clearing the roads. Interrupting the podcast, but I guess I'll look the other way this time. All right, when Keith and I went over our top 2025 watch releases last week, we talked a lot about different watch case materials. I was on a full gold kick, a two-tone kick. Titanium is always a favorite of mine. Keith mentioned the Damascus steel Tissot PRX, right? We talked about a number, the ceramic IWC. And it gave me the idea to do an episode I've actually been wanting to make for a long time. And that's ranking my favorite watch case materials I've ever owned. I've not owned them all. I've never owned a full yellow gold watch, actually. Never owned Damascus steel or Timascus steel or any other kind of scuss steel. Bad joke. Anyway, I can count. Maybe there's more. I was going to throw in Bioceramic by Swatch, but I'm not going to. I guess maybe I'll lump it in with resin. But I can come up with 9 unique and individual watch case materials that I've had in my collection over the years. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to rank them. And I thought we would do it under the guise of a Christmas episode, or if you saw the title of the podcast, a Wristmas episode. I'm not sure I thought of that, but I can never resist a good pun when I think of it, when I come across it. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do a naughty or nice list. And I guess this is a naughty and nice list. Obviously, every case material, whether you like it or not, is going to have positives and negatives. So we're going to do that. We're not only going to be negative here or positive. We're going to give both attributes of each watch case material. I think of, 9. So we'll rank 9 to 1. And then I'll give a nice list that I can think of from my experience owning it, a naughty list from my experiences, and then a couple examples of watches I owned with that watch case material. Sound good? All right. Buckle up. Here we go. Merry Wristmas, everybody. If you want to turn it off, I don't blame you. All right, coming in at number 9 is 925 silver. It's called that because it's an alloy made up of 92.5% silver, right? I owned the Tudor Black Bay 58 925. That's the only watch I've owned with silver. You don't see a whole lot of watch cases made of silver. That's really the only one I can think of outside of maybe some older vintage stuff. We see dials made of silver oftentimes, but watch case materials, it's much more rare to see a watch case made up of 925 silver. All right, my nice list. I just like the way it looked. It had a warm look to it. It's a softer material, so I just really like the way it looked. Also, with the dial they use, like a taupe, I thought it was just great. I thought it looked so awesome with the silver case. I am somebody who does like patina, so silver will tarnish. I think it adds character. I love that. I absolutely enjoy it. And you can clean it up too. That's the great thing with silver and with bronze. You can get some funky tarnish and patina on them, and then you can clean them up and they're as good as new if you do it properly, right? And there's plenty of videos and tutorials how to do that. So that's one thing I really like about silver as well. It was wearable. I'm not sure how much less it weighs than steel, but it definitely is lighter than steel. So that was also pretty cool. And one thing I value in my watch collection, it's rare. It's interesting. You don't see, like I said, you don't see silver watch cases every day, right? I actually love that. So that's one thing I actually miss about having it in my collection. It is rare. It's a talking point. I know the guys from Grey NATO have talked a lot about that watch, and within the Slack, it's been a popular topic lately. So I owned it a few years ago. I bought it from the authorized dealer. I did eventually move it on. We'll get to the naughty list here, and I'll tell you why I moved it on. I think it's a nice thing, but a naughty list for some, it might be that it tarnishes easily. Not everybody likes that, right? Keith actually mentioned it in the last episode that there was one for sale on Delray Watch that looked like black or something. It was so tarnished. I did not go and look at that watch, but yeah, that's not a positive for everybody. Like Keith does not like that, right? The thing that bothered me about it, and I like scratches, I like patina, but it's very soft. What is a scratch on a regular steel watch could be a gouge or a ding on silver. It's a strap monster, the BB58 925. I'm starting to hate that term, and I think a lot of you probably hate that term, but I'm going to use it for lack of anything better, strap monster. The one problem is you can really gouge the back of the lugs and also the spring bar hole, right? I actually felt like the spring bar hole was getting a little worn out from constantly putting it back in, taking it out, putting it back in. You really want to use tape if you're going to do a lot of strap changes. Like I said, what can be just scratches on steel can cause some serious damage on silver if you're not careful. That was the main thing. I loved changing straps on it. I bought some straps for it. It looked great on a variety of different straps and strap materials. But yeah, it's just so soft. Even like titanium doesn't gouge in my experience anyway, like silver did. So that's probably the reason I ultimately moved on from it. I just didn't also trust it if I were to wipe out, because I am an active person and I do active things in my watches. And I just wasn't sure, even though it's a dive watch and it could handle water and everything, I just wasn't sure it could handle like a fall in the woods. It might be catastrophic. And, I cannot enjoy my watches if I'm thinking about babying them. That's just a no-go for me. If it's too precious, then it doesn't belong in my collection. Also, you do have to polish it. I probably would never polish it. I like things to just stay as is, so I wouldn't do that. But yeah, that's the naughty list, and ultimately those were the reasons I moved on from it. But yeah, really unique watch that I was happy to own. I'm glad I got to own it for a while, but also happy I moved on from it. All right, next, number 8, two-tone. All right, this is like the fantasy version of myself I want to be versus what I actually like. The fantasy part of me and the person who cosplays is happy to rock a two-tone watch, looking like 80s, 90s Wolf of Wall Street type stuff, right? I can't pull it off in real life, I don't think, but I really, really want to be able to. I don't care. I can pull off anything. I don't really love what it says about me if I'm wearing it, to be honest. But yeah, I owned it with the Oyster Quartz, the Rolex Oyster Quartz. I had a 1988 version, and oh yeah, it looked peak 1988, man. It was pretty cool. We often think of two-tone, and I'm talking about steel and yellow gold here, by the way, right? The Oyster Quartz had a yellow gold bezel, fluted bezel, and crown. My wife called it a grandpa watch. She hated that watch. If I were to get a two-tone Rolex Datejust, she would not like it. She thinks they look bad. She thinks they look old manny. Not a fan. I'm a fan when I see them, when I see other people wearing them, when I see them online. For me personally, in my collection, like I talked about the Gerard Perigo Laureato 50. Oh, man. I really love that watch. I love the way it looks, but I might like it more not on my wrist. I like that it exists. I like staring at it. Probably wouldn't like owning it, but yes, let's go over the nice and naughty list when it comes to two-tone. Again, it warms my heart. It reminds me of 80s and 90s. Reminds me of maybe a grandpa, or like I've talked about before, who my uncle who had a gold watch, a Rolex that may or may not have been real. Like, I don't know. It gives me the warm and fuzzies when I think of it. And yeah, I love that. There's a visual contrast, I think, gold with the steel. I just think it looks nice. I always like a contrast. That's why I like that Patek that I talked about last week, the Calatrava, the salmon dial, and then those black anthracite indices and hands. I really like that contrast. It just looks expensive, I think. If you see somebody with a two-tone watch, if you're into that, that could be a nice thing. Like, oh yeah, that guy's made it. Look at that watch. It's a flex for sure. I think it's also versatile. I think you can dress it up. You can dress it down. It's certainly a statement. Those are nice things, I guess you would say. All right, naughty. I think we've seen a lot of bad, like cheap two-tone watches. So that might be, to some, it might be a flex, and others, it might look like fakey a little bit. I think a lot of people are just preconditioned to think expensive looking watches on our wrist are fake. Like I talked about when I went to the bar this past summer, and the woman we were talking to, my friend and I, she started talking to us, and she noticed my watch, and immediately she's like, if it's fake, that's okay. You can tell me. I was like, it's not. But yeah, I think it's polarizing. This is what I would be afraid of. And this is where it makes my naughty list. I just don't like the message it sends. I'm not a two-tone guy. I'm mostly dressed down. I'm more of stealth wealth guy. I feel like it's loud. And also yellow gold can scratch, and it's a softer material too. Yeah, so those are the things I would put it on the naughty list. Yeah, I just don't like the image it projects. And I really don't care what anyone else thinks, but I also have to be comfortable with what I'm sending out there. And I wouldn't be comfortable with it. Maybe in 25 years when I retire and I'm an older guy, I'll feel differently. I hope I do. Because like I said, there is a part of me who really wants to rock a two-tone watch. But yeah, ultimately, I'm not sure I love the message I'm sending out if I were wearing a two-tone watch. So yes, at number 8, two-tone. And again, the two-tone watch I owned was the Rolex 1988 Oyster Quartz Datejust. All right, number 7, bronze. I feel like when I got into the watch hobby, bronze was hot. It was like the hype material. You were seeing so many releases in bronze, micro brands, major brands, and it's cooled a little bit. I've owned a couple. I owned a bronze Zelos, and oh God, I've owned a couple bronze Zelos. I cannot remember the models. And then I owned probably the favorite bronze watch I owned was the, again, Tudor. One thing about Tudor, the designs might be a little staid, but the materials they use, pretty cool. It was the boutique edition bronze Black Bay 58. I've gone through a lot of Black Bay 58s in my day. That was full bronze too, bracelet and case. I really did like that watch. And, it's a little shiny when you start, and it's a little loud, maybe. I guess that can give you an idea of what owning a full gold watch might look like, but it dulls. And I actually kind of like that more. I'm not big into shiny, not big into like full polish. So yeah, the first few days of the bronze Black Bay 58 were very, very shiny. And then immediately, it starts to change with your sweat and everything else you put it through, whether you get it wet or not. And then it kind of dulls to where I like it. It's not so loud and not so flashy. That watch is still available, I believe. I think you can only buy it at boutiques. It's not readily available at like your authorized dealer, but there's plenty on the secondary market. All right, so the nice and naughty list, naughty and nice list for the bronze and bronze in general. Character. You know what? Like I said, patina. Again, I love patina. It tells a story. Yeah, no watch is going to look like the other one either. You can compare two bronze watches. I wear one for a year, you wear one for a year, and they're going to look completely different. Also based on the type of bronze that's used as well, right? I really enjoyed the way the bronze looked. It looked dark. It did get some green spots on it. I know people have argued that that doesn't happen with the Tudor, but I can tell you firsthand experience, it does. And I owned like the two bronze Zelos, but I did not wear them long enough to get some good patina on them. And I did not clean them up. I know you can clean them up with lemon juice, toothpaste. Again, there's a lot of tutorials how to reverse the patina on bronze. And again, like with silver, like I said, you can kind of do a science experiment. Put it through the ropes, and then you can clean it up if you know what you're doing and you do it properly, right? So that's cool. Again, character. I love that. Looks warm and vintage, especially when you get some wear on it, like I said. I like that it's kind of a science experiment. It's alive, sort of, on your wrist. It's changing all the time. Like, again, I'm not a science geek at all. I hated science and math and all that stuff. But yeah, again, I just think that's neat. It's an added element of the watch that makes it really interesting. So I thought that was really cool. Again, it was a dive watch. If I were someone that went in the water a lot, you could compare like patina in salt water versus patina in fresh water. Like, I think that would be really cool. And if it looks funky enough, if it looks like a barnacle on the bottom of the ocean, you're going to get some conversation out of it. People are going to ask you about it. So that's the nice list with bronze, and specifically the Tudor Black Bay 58 bronze. Here's the naughty list. And this actually did happen to me. I got green wrist almost immediately. The person I bought it from sold it because he was absolutely freaked out when his wrist turned green. That was a non-starter for him. Again, I like the science experiment part of it, so I thought that was pretty cool, actually. But that was a naughty list item for the person I bought it from, that's for sure. It smelled, too. It definitely smelled. It smelled like pennies, I thought. But again, a major turnoff. If your wrist is turning green and the watch smells bad, that might be a recipe for some people to sell their watch. Yeah. Some patina is not attractive. And again, if you have to reverse patina every week because you hate the way it's looking, bronze may not be the material for you. It can also be high maintenance. I saw somebody post on Facebook the other day that their bezel was sort of, I don't know if they called it oxidization, but it had rusted through. The bezel had a giant hole in it. So that can happen. And yeah, it's maybe not so trendy anymore either. Like I said, when I got into watches, it was very hypey. It was very popular, and now not so much. So, yep, that might be a naughty list for some. That is my nice and naughty list for bronze specifically. The Tudor Black Bay 58 Bronze Edition. All right, number 6 on my list, ceramic. Okay, last week, I talked about the IWC Ingenieur in full black ceramic. I think that watch looks awesome. I do not really love shiny ceramic bezels. I'm much more of an aluminum bezel fan. A naughty list for ceramic bezels for me, real quick aside here, would be I just think they look too shiny. They're never going to age. I would much rather have an aluminum bezel. I like when my watches age, and I know I'm in the minority. If a watch, especially a dive watch, does not have a ceramic bezel, people complain, especially at a certain price point. Like, why has Omega moved to aluminum bezels for the SMP again and charging more than they did for the ceramic versions, right? I think it's awesome. That is a welcome change for me, but not everybody feels that way. The one ceramic bezel I did like was on the FXD, the Tudor FXD. It's a matte ceramic. And again, I just think that looks great. It looks sort of aged depending on which watch you get it with, but it won't scratch. And it just looks more attractive to me than a blingy, shiny ceramic bezel. I think that's the number one reason I sold the Submariner. Maybe not number one, but it definitely contributed. Also, the SMPs I've owned in the past, they're just too glossy. They're just not my thing. I have a ceramic bezel, shiny, I would say shiny-ish ceramic bezel on the SNR, the Seiko SNR 045. It's okay. I can live with it on that. But ultimately, my preference is aluminum. I did own a full ceramic watch, the Girard-Perregaux Casquette, the digital driver's watch. But that sort of cheated. It had ceramic links, but they were rubber-backed. But the case was full ceramic. It did have a titanium case back. But yes, that is my real only experience with ceramic. Rado is well known for making full ceramic watches. I told the story last week, and I can't remember where this was. I believe it was in a Discord I was in years ago, but a gentleman got a full ceramic watch. It may have been a Rado, ceramic case and bracelet. Got it when it was cold outside. Took it in and immediately started sizing the bracelet and was doing it a little bit rough and ended up shattering the watch. And, he, I think he did contact them and they said, user error. There's nothing we can do. And I kind of agree with them. You have to know what materials you're working with when you buy a watch like that. You have to know the risks. All right, let's look at the nice list when it comes to ceramic. This may not be my nice list item, but I know it's yours or most people's. It's scratch resistant. It will stay looking new for years. Again, I guess that's nice for a while, but I can't see a ceramic watch being a long-term keeper in my collection just because I'm not attracted to a watch that's 20 years old still looking brand new. If I'm wearing it a lot, I like that reflected on the watch. Call me weird. I like that. But that is a major plus for most people. It's also very lightweight. It's super comfortable on wrist. The Girard-Perregaux was amazingly comfortable, very light. Now, there is some color stability. The black will not fade no matter what happens, no matter how much you're outside. Again, if you're getting a full black ceramic watch, you want it to stay that color black that it first came on. That I agree with. I don't necessarily want it to look faded. I'd like it if it looks scratched. I don't want it to look faded, though. Another thing, it's hypoallergenic, so it's great for sensitive skin. I talked about earlier this year, I had to stop wearing my Garmin because I developed a nickel allergy, right? Not going to happen with ceramic. Hypoallergenic. Polishing on the ceramic, on the GP was, I said earlier, I don't like polishing on steel. I don't really like the way that looks. On ceramic, that's a different ball of wax. It looked amazing. In between the links, it was polished and it would reflect off the light. It was so dang cool. I would just play with the sunlight. I would rotate the bracelet in the sun and it was blinding. It was so brilliantly sharp. Amazing. All right, the naughty list for ceramic. Brittle under impact, right? And I talked about that. That poor guy took his ceramic watch out of the cold, tried to size it, and destroyed the watch. So you have to be careful. Even if it's a warm day and you drop it, potential that it might shatter. Where, a steel or titanium, it's going to show that it dropped, right? But you'll still have a watch to wear. With ceramic, it may be in a million pieces on the ground, unfortunately. It's cold to the touch. It's similar to steel in that way. It's very cold to the touch. And again, expensive to replace. If you drop your watch and it shatters, obviously, if it's under warranty, and you may have to read the fine print to see if that is under warranty, it's going to cost you a lot of money. And you also can't refinish it necessarily, right? So, yeah, that's the naughty list. Ceramic, I'm intrigued to revisit a full ceramic watch. I think white ceramic watches look pretty sharp too. There's like a white Laureato. I think there's a YouTuber, and I can't think right now who has it, but I think he has the white ceramic Laureato, and that's awesome too. So yeah, I'm intrigued by them. I think for short-term ownership, I would really enjoy like having that IWC Ingenieur in my collection. At $20,000, it better be a lifetime keeper if I were to buy that. But yeah, I'm not sure they would have staying power in my collection. The Gerard Perregaux did not last forever because I do like a material that takes on aging at some point. Okay, number 5, forged carbon. What the heck is forged carbon? Well, let's let Google tell us a little bit here. A forged carbon fiber watch uses a unique composite material made from chopped carbon fibers mixed with resin, pressed under high heat and pressure to form complex shapes with a distinctive marbled streaked look. Right? That's why a lot of carbon fiber watches you see, including the one I own currently, the Space One Jumping Hour, it has that marbled sort of look, right? And that explains why. Yeah, so this is, I guess, my only forged carbon watch I've ever owned, unless you count the Breitling Endurance Pro, which is, they don't officially say forged carbon, it's their own composite material, Bright Light. To me, it feels very similar and looked pretty similar to the forged carbon case on the Space One Jumping Hour watch. And a lot of people have poo-pooed the Breitling Endurance Pro for its price. It's a quartz watch with their high accuracy quartz movement, super quartz, I believe it's called. But people just say, oh, you're going to pay that much for a plastic quartz watch? You're insane. I think you can probably get them for $3,000 retail with discount and everything, and they go well under that on the secondary market. I had one. I bought it a few years ago, and like I've said a million times, I have a pretty active job that can tend to beat up watches, and I wore that for work quite a bit. I even wiped out pretty good in the Breitling Endurance Pro when I was running at one point, and it didn't have a mark on it. I ended up selling that watch, and I inspected it. Not one mark. That is extremely tough, durable material that can withstand a beating. So if you're on the fence about a Endurance Pro or maybe another forged carbon watch, go for it. It can take it. It can withstand anything you throw at it. And the same with this Jumping Hour watch from Space One. It's incredibly durable. All right, let's get to the nice list. Forged carbon. It's ultra lightweight. Feels almost unreal on the wrist. Feels like a toy. And that's, I think, I like it for that, especially for a watch I'm wearing for work because it really feels weightless. Like titanium, except maybe even a little lighter, right? We'll get to the naughty list, but I think that's one of the reasons people don't like it and feel like it's cheap and you're not getting your money's worth. We'll get to that, though. It just looks high tech, with that marbled texture. It screams, modern engineering and highly technical. It just looks really cool. I think if somebody is, an engineer or technically minded, they'll look at your watch and say, whoa, what is that? Or I'm sure they already know what it is. And then they'll probably explain to you how it got that way. It's super comfortable. Again, these crazy light watches, both the Endurance Pro and the Space One Jumping Hour are on rubber straps, and that weighs more than the watch itself. Yeah, a heavy-duty rubber strap will probably weigh more than the watch, but yeah, they just wear great, especially if you wear it on like even a NATO or something lighter. Weightless pretty much. Corrosion proof. You don't have to worry about rusting or patina or anything. It withstood that fall. Now, it was not like on pavement. I believe it was out at the farm. And I have scratched watches falling out there before. I fall a lot. I run all day. I trip over dogs. I trip over my own 2 feet. My Shinola took a beating out there. I I wear it as a badge of honor now. But yeah, the bezel's scratched up. And that's just from falling on some, grass with some gravel mixed in. Yeah, it can do a number on a watch, and the Forged Carbon Endurance Pro or the Bright Light. I keep saying Forged Carbon. It's Bright Light. I'll put a link to what Bright Light actually is in the show notes, but to me anyway, it may not be exactly the same as the Forged Carbon on the Space One Jumping Hour, but it was very similar to me just from wearing. And then, you would see it, like I said before, somebody who knows what it is immediately going to see that on your wrist and say, oh, forged carbon watch, cool. So yeah, you have that credibility a little bit. All right, the naughty list. And like I said, it looks cheap and plastic. People are going to pick it up and ask you how much you paid. And when you tell them you paid $3,000 for a Breitling Endurance Pro or this jumping hour watch, they're going to laugh at you. They're all going to laugh at you. If you know what that's from, let me know. Yeah, it feels extremely cheap. It's not. And if you know, you know. But if you don't know, you're not going to get it. You're going to wonder why someone would spend this much money on something that feels like a plastic toy when you can spend the same amount of money on a big chunk of steel and feel like you got your money's worth. Every case is different. There's a little inconsistency. I have found some sharp edges on the jumping hour. Now, the case looks like a spaceship. So there's going to be some sharp edges that you don't find necessarily on a regular round watch. I did not find that on the Endurance Pro, but yeah, it can feel a little plasticky and sharp. It's not going to cut you like it might on steel, but still, they could have rounded it out a little bit, in my opinion. It's hard to refinish if you do somehow scratch it or chip it. I think it's very hard to refinish. And again, price skepticism. It just doesn't jive in their brains that, this costs so much money when it doesn't feel like it should. And it also might be a little trendy at the moment. In 20 years, is a forged carbon watch going to look stylish, or is it going to look like acid wash jeans? They were cool back in the day when I was a little kid, and maybe I think they're even coming back. But let's say like 15 years ago, acid wash jeans were definitely not cool. But in the 80s, they were. And I think I see some of the ironic, hipsters wearing them again, but I don't know if the trend will always be there for forged carbon. So yeah, that's the naughty list. I do like the Space One a lot. I didn't necessarily buy it because it was forged carbon. I just wanted a jumping hour in my collection. And I think Space One is doing some incredible things as a brand. I don't know that it's a long-term keeper. I kind of have those watches that are definitely going to stick around, and then the ones that are just visiting. And that one might be expendable, but a cool watch nonetheless. So yes, that is my nice and naughty list for forged carbon at number 5, specifically the Space One jumping hour, and if you count the Breitling Endurance Pro with bright light. All right, number 4, resin. A G-Shock Square, the Casio, Frogman, that kind of resin. It's basically a version of a plastic, right? And bioceramic felt pretty cheap. I guess I won't lump it in here with resin, but as a G-Shock fanatic and somebody who uses them for work on a day in, day out basis, like I do, resin had to be pretty high here on the list. G-Shocks are a big part of my life. I love the functionality, and I also love that I can wear it for work. My job's very physical. Not only am I working with dogs, but I'm opening my car door a bunch, putting dogs in my van, taking dogs out of my van, constantly just bumping my watch on things, especially at work. I'm clumsy in my daily life as well, but especially at work, yeah, my watch can take a beating. So I don't wear my nicer, more expensive steel watches that would get destroyed. I'm all for wearing your watch, but also you have to be smart. So a G-Shock fits the bill perfectly, and that's why I love them. Also, the stopwatch, the timer. We're not really going into watch functions here, but as a package, G-Shock is perfect for what I do for a living and, why they're used in the military and construction workers, policemen. There's a reason you see G-Shocks on a lot of their wrists, and I think resin has a lot to do with it. All right, so let's go in the nice and naughty list for resin. And I'm specifically talking about the resin used on G-Shocks. Ultra light, you know what? Again, a watch like this should not be heavy, should definitely be light. Most of them are quartz, of course. So yeah, very lightweight, barely there on the wrist. A watch like this, you should just set it and forget it, essentially. Put it on your wrist and then forget you're wearing it. Shock resistant, of course, G-Shock, right? That's the whole point. You can fall, you can drop the watch from a high distance, and it's going to absorb shock very, very well. Comfort first, no cold metal. I know there are some, full steel G-Shocks, and I've owned a few, but most of them, with the resin, of course, are super comfortable and easy to wear, affordable, accessible. If you really want to spend the bare minimum on a G-Shock, you can do it for about $50. And yeah, you're in. Of course, you can go up from there, but yeah, extremely affordable. Anybody can enjoy the watch hobby, and G-Shock is the entryway for a lot of us. And even those of us with some nicer watches in our arsenals still love the G-Shock. You can do anything with resin. There's a design freedom, color, shapes, wild aesthetics. G-Shock, I can't remember the reference number, but I know Jody from Just One More Watch roasted it. That he said it looked like a virus, that G-Shock. I can't remember the name of it right now. But yeah, that can be done with resin. So super cool. Anything from the traditional looking square to the wild colors and funky designs that G-Shock comes out with can be done with resin. And it's tool credibility. I mean, G-Shock has proven resin is a tough ass material. So yes, there's that. All right, naughty list. Again, feels cheap to some. There are G-Shock detractors. I know, I can't believe it. They exist though. And the plastic stigma. People just don't even want to spend $50 on a plastic watch, what they perceive as plastic. They don't understand. Maybe they don't have a need for it. Maybe they don't get out there and live life. I'm just kidding. If you don't like G-Shocks, I apologize. I'm not making fun of you. I'm just having fun. But yeah, some people just, it feels cheap and it's not for them. It can age poorly. UV exposure, cracking, yellowing over time. Yeah, I've noticed the G-Shocks that I've worn for years. The straps especially are not in perfect condition. I try to take good care of them. I will rotate for 5 work days. And then after that 5th work day, I usually do wash it with soap and water. The key is to dry it. Make sure you're drying it as well. But yeah, I've heard of people, spraying them with, accidentally getting like suntan lotion or sun spray or bug spray, and then they're permanently stained. Definitely seen that. Paint can get on them, and that doesn't usually come off. So yeah, that can definitely happen. So they can age poorly. Obviously, you're not going to be able to refinish it. So they do take on scratches. I know a lot of the resin straps on my G-Shocks are all scratched up. And the straps can fail too. They can break, they can crack, they can rip. So there is that. That's the naughty list. I'm a G-Shock fanboy. A lot of times if that happens, I think Keith talked about his F91W failing after 6 years and he had to get another one. You know what? It's cheap enough where you can. We're not really breaking the bank. If you get 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years out of a $150 watch, I think most of us are pretty satisfied with that. I will always defend G-Shock. I love them to death. I'm a huge fan. And I know like Timex, Iron Man, they use resin. Basically any sort of tough digital watch is going to employ some type of resin. And I just think they're the best. And yes, that is my naughty and nice list for resin, specifically on G-Shocks and maybe even the Timex Iron Man. All right, number 3. Stainless steel. What can be said about stainless steel? There are people that love the heft, other materials that I've talked about, like forged carbon, and titanium is going to be on this list for me personally. People will prefer steel every time. I've talked about my friend who loves my Seiko SNR 045 because it's a 45 millimeter big boy watch. He's a bigger guy. It's thick, chunky. He loves Seiko. It's everything he likes in a watch. He tried it on, and because it wasn't steel, it was titanium, it just wasn't for him. So yes, there are a lot of people who love stainless steel. I think casual watch people, when they are going to buy one expensive watch, want it to be a big chunk of steel, want it to be as shiny and polished as possible to make a statement and saying, you know what? I worked hard. I'm only going to spend this much on a watch once in my life, And damn it, I want it to look good and weigh a lot. So yes, stainless steel. And there's a few different types we're going to get into. I mean, whether it be hardness coatings, I've had stainless steel with, PVD coating, DLC coating, blacked out watches, right? And those have drawbacks. If you scratch that, a lot of times you can see through it. I had one of the oldest PVD watches, the Seiko 7A28 chronograph, the titanium coated in PVD from 1983. That was at the beginning of that sort of coating technology. And a lot of those you find will have a lot of that coating scraped off. But this one had it almost all intact, which is amazing. So yes, I've owned that. And then Traska does a hardness coating, which kind of changes the color, makes it look a little more dulled like titanium. Seiko has their super hard coating. I think that's what they call it. Really original, inventive name, right? The Traska coating is amazing. I mean, you could take, I think Teddy even did it in a video with our friend, Mr. Wonderful there, Kevin O'Leary. I think he even took like a needle or a pin or something and tried to scratch a link with that hardness coating on a Traska bracelet, and he couldn't. And I found that to be the exact same thing. Those watches did not scratch. Again, wore my Freediver to work, and on a normal watch, that's going to really leave a mark. But on that, it didn't. I find the super hard coating to look pretty good as well on Seiko. You'll see some scratches for sure, but for the most part, it holds up nicely. So yeah, there's all kinds of coatings. There's all kinds of different types of steel. And we're going to go into two different types of steel that I've owned and that I actually currently own. So let's do the naughty and nice real quick for 316L stainless steel. Extremely durable, tough enough for daily wear, travel, desk diving. It is going to scratch desk diving. Look at your clasp if you work at a computer all day. That's called desk diving. But I mean, there's a reason a high percentage of watches are made of stainless steel. It just works. It's just tough. Corrosion resistant, sweat, salt water, humidity, they don't phase it at all. Dive watches are primarily made of stainless steel. Most regular watches are made of stainless steel. I try to clean them up. There's a little bit of wrist grossness that can get caught between the links and stuff. If you ever buy a watch and you see that a little bit, it's like, ew. So yeah, I just try to wash it with soap and water semi-regularly. Easy to refinish, can be polished out. Again, not that I would ever do that, but a lot of people want that. So some people use Cape Cod cloths on polished parts and that kind of thing. So easy enough for somebody to refinish. It's universally trusted. Like I said, there's a reason most watches use stainless steel, and it's timeless. Never goes out of style. Watches from the beginning of wristwatches have used stainless steel. So there's a reason for that. Naughty, common. Almost too familiar. It's not exciting. So maybe that's why I'm drawn to more exotic materials. I obviously do love having a few, steel heavier watches in my collection, but there is also something about having something lighter and a little more exotic. They scratch, like I said. If you're a desk diver, look at your clasp. Polished surfaces. A fully polished watch is going to take on a bunch of scratches. See the fully polished bezel on a Cartier Santos, famous for scratching just by looking at it. They do wear a little cold on the wrist, so if you're, wearing a steel watch in the winter, you'll feel it. You go outside to start your car and it's 0 degrees. I know our friend Keith is having very cold weather in Chicago right now. We talked about it for the Bears game. You couldn't pay him money to go and watch a Bears game in that temperature. Yeah, I'm sure when he goes out to start his car in the morning, he feels his cold steel watch on his wrist for sure. It's not luxury enough for some also. Precious metal snobs, the steel. But ironically, it's the stainless steel Rolexes and Pateks that trade higher than the precious metal stuff. So think of that what you will. But then there's another type of stainless steel that I have in my collection on my Rolex Air King, and that's 904L stainless steel. So let's do a quick naughty and nice list for 904L stainless steel. The nice list. exceptional corrosion resistance. Again, much like 316L, shrugs off the salt water, the sweat, the humidity. It takes a high polish, probably better than 316L stainless steel. Easier to get scratches out, and it looks super shiny. That's, I think, one of the reasons Rolex uses it. Luxury association, obviously, it's linked with Rolex and high-end finishing. So when you tell someone, that's, I think, micro brands, there are micro brands and other brands that use 904L stainless steel, and that's one of their marketing materials, right? They point that out because it is associated with Rolex. It is hypoallergenic, so friendly for sensitive skin. Like I said a little bit ago, I do have a nickel allergy, so anything that's hypoallergenic, I'm all for. It feels special. Maybe that's all in your mind because you're wearing it with a Rolex more often than not, right? 904L stainless steel. But it does look premium when finished well. All right, the naughty list. Marketing over substance. Again, like I said, brands will use that in their marketing material, but does it really give you that much of an edge, right? Skeptics will say it does not. A naughty thing that a lot of people have pointed out, Rolex is scratch easier than other watches. It's softer than 316L, so it does scratch a little bit easier. Again, easier to get out than maybe on 316L stainless steel, but it will scratch easier. It is a little harder to machine, so it raised costs without obvious wearer benefits. And then I think the more and more brands that use it, the less special it feels, right? Like, I have a Rolex. They're the only brand to use 904L stainless steel. Well, when a bunch of other micro brands start using it, may not feel as special as it once did. So yeah, that's the main differences. Obviously, I could talk about steel. I could do a whole episode on steel, the types of polishing, Grand Seiko, like I said, Zaratsu polishing looks amazing. I think the polishing on Rolex, though not done by hand like it is with Grand Seiko, they do a nice job. So many different types of finishing can be done on stainless steel, the brushing. Some brands do it so well. So it's famous and popular for a reason, and I would say 90-something% of all watches use it. Stainless steel, my number 3. All right, number 2 on my list, and maybe a lot of you won't see this coming. White gold. I've talked a lot about not really loving two-tone and the message it sends out. And again, the fantasy part of me really, really wants to rock a full yellow gold watch. But I'm just not sure I can do it. Again, it's out of my price point. I mean, a full yellow gold bluesy would be pretty freaking awesome. But I'd be self-conscious, and it's a lot of money. So there is a solution to that, and it's white gold. And I owned a white gold watch with the Moser Endeavor Funky Blue. It's not screaming that it's a very expensive watch because it looks like stainless steel, right? Most people are just going to think it's a stainless steel watch. It's much heavier. So I remember I didn't tell my father-in-law what I paid for that watch or what it retails for anyway, and I didn't pay anything near retail, and I consolidated to get that watch. But he loved it. He thought it was really nice. And he said, whoa, it's very heavy. I did not tell him it was white gold. But so I just think it's a nice way to get gold, a precious metal in your collection, but not be a target for people to ask you how much it costs, not be a target for nefarious people who are looking to take it off of your wrist, and just not get a whole lot of attention. Yeah, I know what it costs and what it's worth and that it's very special, but I don't need the world to know, right? It's enough that I know. And that's how I felt about the white gold Moser Endeavor. Really, really special. I mean, the warmness of the case and also the very interesting case design on that watch. It was really amazing. The polishing looked incredible on white gold. And now we'll get into the nice and naughty list because I kind of have to talk about that watch further. So the nice list, again, stealth luxury, stealth wealth. We talk about it all the time, right? To the untrained person, most people will just think it's a stainless steel watch because that's what it looks like, right? Without really examining it too closely, it just looks like a regular old stainless steel watch. But like I said with my father-in-law, it has that precious metal weight, dense, reassuring heft, screams luxury. That's what we love about gold. A full gold watch, whew, that's heavy. Full platinum watch, very, very heavy. And white gold is right there. It just has a weight to it that screams, yeah, this feels and looks expensive. It doesn't tarnish. Unlike silver, white gold keeps its look long term. Yep, I found it to look great. I owned that watch 2 years, and it looked great the entire time. It's perfect for dress watches. Again, the Endeavor's a dress watch, but I wore it for everything because I paid a lot of money for it, and that's how I justify those expensive purchases to myself, is I wear them. Even when it may not be suitable, and even if I may damage the watch, I feel like I have to wear it. A lot of people are the opposite, and that's cool. They spend that much money on a white gold dress watch. It's only reserved for special occasions. They would never take it hiking like I did. They would gasp if they saw me in the woods with that thing. But no, we just look at it differently, and that's cool. And it's very collectible. It's often tied to limited or special references. That white gold Endeavor was a limited edition of 100. I know many brands used white gold. I'm not sure they're all limited, but a lot of times they are. And that's why. Because it's a very special material. Okay, the naughty list. Paying gold prices for a steel appearance. To some people, that doesn't make sense. If they're going to spend that much money on gold, they want it to be yellow gold. So everyone around them knows, hey, I spent a lot of money on this, right? I like the stealth aspect, where I don't want to scream from the rooftops that I spent a lot of money on my watch. Yeah, I'd rather have, a little stealthiness going on. To each their own on that. It makes the nice list and the naughty list. It scratches very easily. Much like yellow gold, it's super soft. And I had a fully polished dress watch that I used for hiking. You don't think that thing was covered in micro scratches? No major dings. Never really dinged it. If somebody wanted to refinish it really quickly, they could. But yeah, it had a ton of micro scratches, especially if it was like in the sun, if the sun hit the right way. The dial looked amazing on the funky blue fume, but you saw every little micro scratch on that case and bezel. That's for sure. Rhodium plating. A lot of them are rhodium plated, and many will need to be replated over time to be bright again, to look bright and brand new again. So that is a concern for long-term ownership with white gold. And then, it's a flex gone wrong. A lot of people buy gold to flex. And like we said, with white gold, no one's going to know that it's special unless you tell them or they pick it up and they say, oh yeah, this feels a little heavier than stainless steel. What is this? I guess you could say the same thing for platinum. I've never owned a platinum watch, but again, that can look like steel too, right? So it may not be the flex you're hoping for. If you are looking to flex and show off a little bit, I think yellow gold is your ticket, not white gold. So yeah, that is my number 2. Really special material. I moved on from the Moser. It was time for someone else to enjoy it and for me to put the funds in other places. I really enjoyed my time with that watch, though. No regrets owning it, no regrets selling it. I have the pictures to look at and the fond memories. But yes, white gold, super special, and is number 2 on my list. All right, so I think you know what number 1 is. By process of elimination, I talk about it all the time. Titanium. I've owned a number, too many to even talk about here, a number of titanium watches. I've said, and I do mean this, I think one day my collection might be made up entirely of titanium watches. I like lightweight watches as a very active person, even when I'm not working and I'm wearing my nicer watches. I'm always doing stuff, always out in the woods or putzing around, and the lighter the better. I like that one, like I said, that one hefty stainless steel or white gold watch in the collection, but primarily I love wearing titanium. Let's just get into the nice and naughty list here because I've waxed poetic about titanium pretty much the entire run of this podcast. So if you've listened to many episodes, you've heard it before. So yeah, let's just get right into the nice list. It's ultra lightweight. I find it to be super comfortable. My favorite aspect of a watch is forgetting I'm wearing it until I need it. With certain heavy watches like the Marine Master the Seiko SLA 023. You are constantly reminded you're wearing a watch. As beautiful as that watch is, and as impressive as that watch is, I don't love being reminded I'm wearing a watch. Only when I need it. Oh yeah, it's still there. Sometimes with titanium, you're like, oh, did it fall off? No, it's there. Just checking. So yeah, I love that. It's very strong. I know it feels cheap because it is so light, but it's a strong, tough material without the bulk and the weight. It's corrosion proof. Again, salt water, sweat, and humidity will not be an issue for titanium. Swim and dive with a titanium dive watch, and you'll have no worries. Hypoallergenic, again, perfect for sensitive skin. It's warm on the wrist. So if you go out to start your car on a 0-degree day, you will not feel your titanium watch on your wrist. It's not like steel where it's super cold, right? Titanium actually feels warm. It warms quickly to your body temperature and your skin. And it does have that tool watch credibility. You know, a Pelagos feels like a damn tough watch, even though it's super light. My SNR 045. My friend did not like it because it was light, but it's definitely a tough do anything tool watch. Okay, naughty list. Visually scratches easily. And I've done a whole episode on why titanium scratches easily. I'll try to put a link to that in the show notes. But especially grade 2 titanium will definitely show some scratches. And you can get rid of them. A lot of people will do it with erasers. They'll take erasers to it, and it cleans up those scratches. So visually, anyway, they can look scratched, but they're pretty easy to clean up if you want to. It is harder to refinish, though. Not as service-friendly as steel. Like if you take a gouge out of it or something, a little harder to refinish. And just polish. A lot of times, polishing titanium is very difficult. Citizen does an incredible job. And they also have a nice Duratect coating for their titanium. And that's not only like the Citizen I had, which is a luxury watch, but also even the inexpensive titanium releases they put Duratect on. So scratches are harder to come by on, a Citizen watch with Duratect. And I think they do a phenomenal job with polishing, because it's not always easy. The Casio Oceanus, another titanium watch that does polishing very well. Grand Seiko goes without saying. Their titanium Zaratsu polishing is also incredible. So, yep, it is harder to work with and harder to polish, but I think those brands, and other brands, of course, do it very, very well. It does have a muted look, and some people don't like that. I actually would put that on my nice list. I think that is a really cool feature. I love the look of titanium. That darker sort of muted look. I think it looks great. That's what I liked about the Traska Freediver, which is steel, but they put that hardness coating on it, and it gives it a little bit of a titanium look. So I really like that. And like I said here a bunch, it feels very light to some people, feels like a toy. My The Citizen, which was a very 38 millimeter thin titanium quartz watch, really did feel like a toy. Like the Pelagos and the SNR 045, they're light, but they still have a little bit of weight to them. They have some substance. The Citizen, I mean, it really did feel like a toy. And then you tell people what it cost and that it's a Citizen, and they laugh at you. They judge you, right? Maybe not to your face, but as they walk away, they're thinking like, oh, this sucker. Why did he pay that much for a toy-feeling Citizen, right? And then inconsistencies between finishing on grade 2 versus grade 5. I'm not sure. I've owned both, and I don't really notice a ton of differences, but I'm sure if you're really versed in the grades and the differences, I know some people are very picky. They complain, well, if it was grade 5, I'd get it. I'm not that picky. Titanium, I just love it, and I'll take it. Grade 5 might be a little more expensive, a grade 5 watch over a grade 2 watch. But yeah, some people, if you're really well versed in the differences between grade 2 and grade 5, you may be less likely to buy a grade 2 titanium watch. But yep, goes without saying, titanium is my favorite watch case material. I think if I own 6 or 7 watches, I could see 5 of them being titanium, no problem. Yep, I love it. Again, I actually don't have any work watches that are titanium. Most of them are resin. And then I have the Shinola, which is a big, chunky dive watch. But yeah, so maybe I have to work on getting a titanium. I'd love another titanium G-Shock Square. Oh, maybe I'll sell off my resin G-Shock squares and put it towards one really cool titanium G-Shock square. I've owned a few, and they're incredible. And they have like a DLC coating on them, so they don't scratch very easily either. Great watches. If you're on the fence about buying a titanium G-Shock, I say do it. They're just awesome. All right, well, that is the ranking of my favorite watch case materials done with Clayton Claus's naughty and nice list. Let me know. What are your favorite materials? Maybe even give me a naughty and nice list when it comes to your favorite watch materials. Have you owned materials I didn't talk about? Are you a full yellow gold fan? Let me know. Yeah, Damascus steel, platinum, tantalum. Yeah, let me know if you've owned these other exotic materials. I would love to hear your naughty and nice list, and then maybe I'll read them on the next episode or the episode after. I think it would be awesome to hear from you. You can reach out to me on Instagram, private message. I always answer. This gets released as a YouTube video, and you can leave comments on there as well. You can also text message the podcast in the show notes there. There's an option to do that. Like I always say, I can't answer you back on there. I'm not being rude. But again, so wonderful to talk to you. We will have an episode Christmas week. I know that's coming up in 9-10 days now, I guess. So yeah, fast approaching. So yeah, again, don't stress out. The holidays should be enjoyable. Don't sweat it too much. And remember, they're not always a happy time for everybody. So check on your loved ones. And yes, I will talk to you on the next episode. Remember, sometimes you're the dog, sometimes you're the hydrant, but hey, at least you're outside. We'll catch you on the next episode of the Watch Dang podcast. See you later.